QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Import IIF file back to QuickBooks to change account numbers. Let's get into it with Intuit's QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Here we are in our sample file. We currently have the Open Windows open. You can open the Open Windows by going to the View drop down and selecting the Open Windows list. We're going to open up now the lists. We're going to go down to the chart of accounts. In the prior presentation, we exported this chart of accounts to an IIF file by going to the File tab. We went to the Utilities. We exported to an IIF file. Then we changed that IIF file with the help and use of Excel. Now we're going to import it back in, and in so doing, change the account numbers on the right-hand side. I'm going to minimize the QuickBooks here and minimize this as well. So here we have our file. So here's our file. Here's our data. Here is our QuickBooks file, our data files in here. This is an IIF file given by the extension to the right side. So we've updated this in the prior presentation. We're now going to take this and import it into the QuickBooks system. So this is the step where you want to back up your system. Make a backup before you import it back in case if there's any problem with it, then you can change it back and get back to the prior point. So we're going to go back into the QuickBooks system, restoring this item. Now to do that, I'm going to have this window open so we can see the account numbers on the right change. Let's also open, say, a profit and loss as well. We'll go to the reports dropdown, company and financial. Let's take a look at a P&L, a profit and loss report, and change the dates from, let's say, 01/01/25 to 12/31/25. And then I'm actually going to close the home page. I'm going to go back to the home page and close that so that we just have these two windows open in the open windows. Then I'm going to put them side by side so you can see them both by going to the going to the windows up top, and let's put them on a tile vertical view. This will put them side by side. So now they're side by side here. Let's minimize the open windows so we can see basically the change as we do this. And I lost my tile view doing that. I'm going to go to Windows again, and I want to tile vertical, and then we'll import our file. We're going to import the IIF file by going to the File dropdown. We're going to go down to the Utilities. We're going to go to Import, and then we want to import the IIF file. So once again, File dropdown, Utilities, Import this time. We're looking for the IIF file. So we're going to search for the IIF. So it's got to close all windows to import. All right, now it's going to close the windows we had open there. Import IIF file. I'm going to say import. And then I'm going to find that on the desktop. And we want to be picking up the IIF. So I want this one we just created on the desktop. I'm going to say that's the one we want. Okay, so the side-by-side window failed, but it's imported now. So let's maximize this screen, and then we can see our lists again, drop-down list. We'll go to the chart of accounts. I'm going to maximize the chart of accounts here, and now we can see our account numbers as we imported them. The 101, the 103, the 105 for the cash. That looks good. It should line up basically to these items here. You can also open up the IIF file just to kind of double check it on the other side. In other words, we might want to open up our Excel again and just open up the IIF file over here just to double check that the accounts are indeed lining up. I'm going to pull this over to the right, and then I'm going to drag the IIF file into it again as we saw in the prior presentation, and then we could see the account numbers we have in this column, and we could basically double check them over to what is in the system here. We can even put this on a side-by-side view in this format, and we could start to line up our account numbers. So we've got the 101, the 103, the 105, the 111, the one. There's a couple that didn't let me change here. So the undeposited funds, you'll notice we changed it to 12.1, and it kept it at that 1200. Now it's curious if you can go in here and change any of those that couldn't. Maybe the undeposited funds, they've kind of locked it for some reason. I'm going to say edit. What if I edit that account here, and I say I want to change that one to 12.1 just out of curiosity, if it'll let me change it this way. We're going to say save and close, and it says you cannot merge QuickBooks special undeposited funds account. So it's going to say it can't do that. I can't change the undeposited funds account. So there might be a couple that QuickBooks is basically saying I'm keeping my account number here. So the 12 So that one's stuck at the 1200. So then we've got the 12.4 inventory. Looks like another situation there. And then it goes back to the ones that are adjusting the 12.7, the 13, 13.3, the 15.1, the 15.3, 15.3.1 for the vehicle. And I think this one was, the reason this one isn't there is because it's a hidden account. In other words, it's not included or inactive. So it's inactive here. So that's why we're not seeing those two items here, because they're inactive. So if I take off the inactive, we are seeing the inactive on this side. So we gave it an account number, even though it's not active. And then we've got the 15.5, and that's going to be the building, and the 15.7, the land, 15.9, and so on. And so I won't do this for the whole thing here, but if you were to change the account numbers in the entire account numbers here, you may want to do that. Basically line these up and just kind of double check them to see that they lined up and see if there's any problems with them as you go through here. So I'm going to maximize the screen, and that's one way you can double check. Obviously I can open up the screen here and see if they line up. Notice we have nicely our sub accounts now, the 21.3, and then our sub accounts, the account numbers line up nicely below it. And we can give that more ability to order our accounts right below the sub accounts. The twos, all liabilities start with the twos. Then the 3,000 start at the 3,000. This is another one. The opening balance doesn't look like they let me adjust that one. They're not letting me adjust the account number. In other words, if I said edit the account number here and I said I want to make this 3.1, and I say save on that, it let me do it there. But when I imported it, it didn't change it on the import, because we had it at 3.1, I believe, here. Yeah, we had it at 3.2. So that's one of their kind of default accounts, which, you know, it may not be changed on the import. So you might just double check it once you've imported it and see if it's adjusted. If you need to, you can adjust it. Obviously, it's not a big deal because the opening balance equity should be gone, and you shouldn't be using it after you first set up the accounts anyways. But in any case, the capital accounts, we have the 3,000 for the equity accounts, 4,000 for the income. We've got this nice subcategorization here, so we can subcategorize the incomes. And these, notice we could have made these a little bit closer to the subcategory, but they're all income accounts, so that looks good. And then we got this nice subcategorization, and we got the subcategories pretty tight in here, with the account numbers close to the parent category. So that looks pretty good. And it looks just a little bit cleaner if you kind of have a system like that lines them up. Although if we have more accounts, we'll put them in between here, and it kind of lines up tightly. And if I need to add a new account now that's, for example, in the category of interest expense, then I can put it in between here without a problem, and the account numbers will all be looking pretty clean, you know, as we go through. The payroll, same thing. If I have more payroll items, if I want to break it out, payroll by location or something like that, then I've got some more room. Now, 10 more accounts in here that we could use. We could have spaced them out more, but that's pretty good. That you want them a little bit tighter in the subcategory accounts here. So then we got some space between, if I need something between rent and repairs, then obviously we have a lot of room between those two. And then within the sub accounts, we still have a bit of room in between each of these in case we want to add some more accounts. And you could space these out a little bit further than 10, units of 10, but that should be pretty good depending on the type of sub accounts that we're going to be using. So yeah, it looks like it imported pretty good. Let's take a look at the financials. Reports drop down. Let's go to the company and financial. Take a look at the balance sheet standard, and we'll change the dates from, this is the balance sheet detail, closing that back out. Reports, company and financial. Let's take a look at the balance sheet standard and change the date to 12/31/25. And so now we've got that categorization here. So there's our cash, and then the sub accounts within the cash. These remember are the account types. That's why they have no account number. They're not sub accounts here. These are account types. And so there's no number on the account type and then the account within it. And so we have a pretty clean looking set of account numbers that are going up in some order. They're not out of order account numbers and whatnot. The furniture and the fixture or the fixed asset type of accounts. And the liabilities looks pretty clean. The payroll looks pretty clean. So we got our long-term liabilities and then the equity. Let's go to the P&L, reports drop down, company and financial. Take a look at the P&L profit and loss from 01/01/25 to 12/31/25. And once again, we got all the income lined up pretty good. That looks pretty good. So the fives for the cost of goods sold, and then we have all these subcategorizations. Now these are the sub accounts. Now these little triangles are the sub accounts now, and so we've got a pretty tight little lineup within the sub accounts. Since we had sub accounts for all expense categories, we might have spaced them out more than just units of 10. So notice, obviously, if you feel like maybe I should space them out more, you can adjust the IIF file again and just import it again. So you can test it out and put it back in here and look at it after you make a backup after we make a backup file for it. And then we can do it again if we so choose and just test it out and see if it's ideal. And you want to spend some time to do that. Go back and forth if you're doing a complete overhaul of the account numbers. Put them back in there, think about it, what kind of changes might you have in the future? Do I need any more room between these two accounts or something like that? Should I space these out further? It's worth it to put in the account numbers properly in the system that you are working with, which will differ from other companies to some degree, although as we can see, there's some similarities as well. And then when you're going forward, it's much easier to have these nice clean account numbers. If I want to add a payroll item and I can't put it where I want to put it because the account numbers aren't there and I have to adjust the account numbers as we go, that becomes a mess. So it's a lot better if you spend the time, if you're going to overhaul the entire account numbers, spend your time, go through it, put in the account numbers, check out your financials, think if it's put in properly, adjust the IIF again if you think it could be done better and make it better, and then upload it again, and that could save frustration basically, in the future. And just note that the ideal is to have one complete overhaul. You don't want to you don't want to be like, well, I'll just overhaul it again when there's a problem, like, a year later. The goal is to have a complete overhaul as of one point in time and say, hey, it's going to be painful right now, but this is it, like, basically for life. The numbers system should work going forward. So that's why you want to, if you spend the time up front, it should be good, going forward.